territory. The N3-1 again should be thrown out as well. My computer's not
He's
ready
still
to
around,
explode.
by the
Dragon's
way.
hit the game. He's still here. He's got 4 Marines with him.
And there's another one pulled in, and it's going to get Neural as well. Instantly shot down. That Alia not doing a huge amount there, but it's going to be obliterated in the process. And
looks like the Ravens trying to undersecure, actually pointed down the point defense drones. Battle cruisers throwing down the amount of cannons, but here come the Vipers. Ladies and gentlemen, hello from the MLG studios here in New York City. My name is axeltoss. I am joined by axslav, and today we continue with Heart of the Swarm exhibitions in the form of King of the Hills. Every Monday, every Friday, we got King of the Hills going on in Heart of the Swarm. If you would like to participate and you can beat axslav in a best of 3 most of the time, visit channel MLG on Heart of the Swarm, and I might pick you if I think you're good enough, or if you give me a good argument, or you say something funny and make me laugh.
That's a good thing.
It's the ground
Laughter
rule.
is needed in this world.
It is.
You know,
There's
I
not
mean,
enough of it.
especially with Heart of the Swarm, there's so many people. When we do this King of the Hill thing,
Yeah,
every game we play, somebody loses.
this is true.
And then every time they lose, they're gonna go, you know, and cry
be
and
sad.
cause. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we need a little bit of laughter to
We do.
help break it up. It of course is in nature.
Yes.
Of 1 versus 1.
Exactly.
That
Someone has to lose. Well, there's ties sometimes. It's
we
actually
haven't had
built
one
into
yet,
the game.
though.
We haven't yet.
We
It
have
could
not
happen
yet
today,
hit
though.
tie.
A little bit of context here. So, King of the Hill, Monday and Friday, every single day of the week, 5 p.m. Eastern, we have something Heart of the Swarm going on. Now, the current King of the Hill, he's already won a $50 prize, having won 5 games in a row. He beat QXC, Sasquatch, Murdercore, Glon, and Elvis to get to 5-0. These are all high Grandmaster players in Heart of the Swarm. Now he's trying to get 6-0. He's TT1. He's going to be one of our players. Also, another one of our players is going to be Dragon, the Terran player who just recently lost to White Raw 4-3. So while he did lose, it was only 4-3, and he showed a lot of promise, a lot of good strategies. We're going to have to see how he's changed his play as he plays TT1 upcoming. Both the players are in the lobby right now. I'm going to ask if they're ready.
Yeah.
Of course, this is all live right here. We're live here right now, of course. That being said, join the chat, have a little conversation, get on Reddit, maybe have a conversation there. Team Liquid, get involved. Also, we have a new StarCraft 2 YouTube channel. Lots of good content going up there every single day. I think there's like a 1-hour turnover between when something happens on the stream and then when it's uploaded to YouTube. So definitely pay attention to that. Go subscribe. I think it's youtube.com/official MLGSC2. If you have any trouble, just search Major League Gaming in the search bar of YouTube, and it'll take you right to the channel. And that should be all well and good. So definitely be sure to check that out. Lots of great content going up there. But players are ready. They said go, go. So I've complied and hit the start button. The countdown is underway. The first map is going to be Newkirk City. PvT between Dragon and TT1. Who do you got in this one?
I think I have to go for TT1, man. I mean,
It's Dragon.
It is Dragon, but I remember, I played a show match versus Dragon.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember is his weakness is sometimes just the basic macro and keeping up, and that's something that TT1 is just absolutely dominant with.
Yeah.
Dragon's got a lot of really cool tricks. In Heart of the Swarm, he's playing a lot, but TT1 has as well. And one thing I noticed from Friday is TT1 pretty much out-macroed every player he came up against. He was playing Zergs or Massing Hydralisk, and he would have more food than them going like Void Ray Templar, like Archon, like insanely expensive units. He would somehow always have more food than his opponent. He's just an absolute macro monster. Can Dragon throw him off his macro game early on?
You know, if I have to consider to myself the 2 players who have played the most Heart of the Swarm in their respective races, I feel like TT1 and Dragon have to be way up there, in my personal opinion. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. TT1 obviously on a 5-game winning streak has been showing a lot of strength in this King of the Hill. So I think it'd be very likely that TT1 can win. But that being said, Dragon has so many tricks that he's been working on, so I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon could take a game off TT1 here. Because again, it is a best of 1. It's a situation where anything can happen.
It is, and on Friday we only saw TT1 play a single PvT, and that wasn't even like a really good example PvT because it was just, you know, QXC not really sure how to utilize that new Reaper, and TT1 took a pretty convincing win just for that 3-game pressure. Dragon, of course, like you mentioned, he's played a lot of Heart of the Swarm.
Yes.
I mean, QXC plays in IPL Team League, he plays in other events that are all wins and liberties, so he hasn't played as much Heart of the Swarm. Dragon is not going to lose in the same way QXC did because Dragon, of course, is so experienced with all the new changes.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And we see Dragon opening up pretty standard as far as what we've seen from him in Heart of the Storm so far, going for a gasless fast expand, not electing to go for those Reapers at this point in time. Again, people have been experimenting with the proxy barracks on the other side of the map, and then just getting the Reapers out as fast as possible. But again, it's a pretty big investment. And after the recent patch, sure, they don't require a tech lab, but they do a lot less damage, so they're a lot faster. But it takes like 5 shots now to kill a probe. So as long as TT1 micros correctly, you know, he's not going to lose any. He's good enough with his micro for that. So I'm not too surprised to see Dragon just go for a standard macro style at this point.
Question is, what direction is he going to take it from here? 2 barracks are already on the way. No gas yet, so looking to get out a bunch of Marines early. You know, the question, it used to be some turns to go 1 barracks, then gas would detect very fast after expansion, maybe to a fast Banshee or something. But now with the new threats like the Oracle, the Mothership Core pressure, it could be that you can't tech quite as fast as you used to be able to do with the Terran race.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. You know, I'm wondering, Dragon still hasn't taken a gas yet, of course. That's pretty standard at this point. You want to get some Marines out early. You know, if you're talking about potential threats from the Nexus, or from the Protoss, I should say, you got the Mothership Core coming out of the Nexus. A lot of Protoss is getting that relatively early and sending that across the map. On a map like this, too, Newkirk City, the air distance isn't crazy far away, so you can theoretically get across the map and do some damage there. But again, if you're doing that, you're sacrificing probe production. So TT1 is going to be delaying that Mothership Core for now, even though his Cybernex core is done, and going to be prioritizing those probes. Hasn't made any Heart of the Storm units just yet. Churning out a Sentry as well, of course. Sentries now have the ability to do hallucinate for free. Of course, it costs 100 energy, but you don't have to research the upgrade. So we're not going to see Protoss stray away from Sentries, even though they're, you know, substitutes in a sense in the form of the Mothership Core as far as early unit defense. Of course, throwing down the Time Warp ability is a nice utility, and being able to do the Photon Overcharge onto your Nexus. So very standard play still from these two guys, and TT1 going for a very fast double forge.
Both players being very greedy in their own rights. Dragon with a 3rd CC before any gas or any techs even started, so he's very, very focused on his economy. TT1, on the other hand, he still has a very good economy, expanding fast, but instead of taking a very fast 3rd base, like you mentioned, I mean, he has 2 forges already done. The weapons attack upgrade has started. I'm sure the armor is soon to be on the way, so he's going to have a decisive tech advantage versus Dragon's probably going to end up with a decisive just unit advantage from having a faster 3rd CC.
And Dragon not delaying those 2 engineering bays too much. We already see them being thrown down there at the bottom of his base. Not sure if I'd place them there. I think some air units can sneak by and harass there. So a little bit of an interesting building placement there from Dragon. But yeah, TT1's going to have an upgrade advantage at this point in time. Definitely going to get 1-1 before his opponent. You got to consider Chrono Boost as well. And we'll have to see if he tries to incorporate any sort of 2-base timing push. We saw White Raw was able to make 2-base timing pushes work pretty darn well against Dragon, considering how delayed Dragon's stuff usually is, considering, you know, he's getting a very fast 3rd command center, as you mentioned. It's already an orbital command, only has 3 barracks, hasn't even put any add-ons onto those barracks, adding on 2 bunkers here. So there's going to be a lot of time where Dragon could be vulnerable, but of course we see Dragon trying to prevent from being vulnerable by adding on these 3 bunkers, you know, at the front of his natural expansion. Normally we only see him put down 2, I think, from the show matches between against White Raw. So maybe after that show match series, he's like, all right, maybe I should just throw down an additional bunker.
Why not?
Just to be safe, yeah.
I mean, they're not too expensive. The one thing I'm interested to see is in Wings of Liberty, taking a 3rd CC before gas, and it's been your first tuner gas, not on a factory, but on 1-1 upgrades. All this often usually means that the Terran is going to be very weak to a Colossi 2-base timing. Or a Colossi focus 2-base timing. But what's interesting here is I wonder is Dragon going to make like 1 or 2 siege tanks? Because it's much more cost efficient now to make just 1 or 2, because you don't have to pay for that siege tech add-on, and that would just help make you a lot safer against those timings. I wonder if he's going to do that or not. No getting the reactor, just figuring that maybe he's familiar enough with TT1 style that Colossi aren't really a big factor in his decision making.
All right, Marie's coming forward here from Dragon, trying to catch TT1 off guard. Zealots and Sentry's going to engage this a little bit, but he needs to back up his force. He does not want to engage all these Marines from Dragon. TT1 back home, remember, he has that Mothership Core, can use Photon Overcharge. Mixing in more Zealots here, 1-1 has just now completed, and Dragon just poking a little there, backing up, securing that third base, so just trying to scare TT1 a little bit.
A very aggressive move by Dragon here, pushing out and taking that third base. He probably scanned TT1 and knew something was going on, or maybe just familiar enough with his style that he knows TT1 was playing greedy as well, because this was a timing here where if TT1 was going for like an 8-gate off 2 base, Dragon would have been in for a world of pain.
Yeah.
The Mothership Core just now being built by TT1,
wow.
so very, very, very macro focused, just making nothing but probes for the game up until now.
Now we see Dragon mixing in some Hellbats here. You know, it occurs so often where you build the factory and its only utility in the game is just to add on a reactor to be able to give to that starport. And then we usually see the Terran player move that factory across the map. But we see Dragon here using that factory, actually building those Hellbats, which got a little bit of a buff. I think we agreed, based on the last patch.
They definitely got a very large buff against Zealots, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest buffs they got is the fact that they no longer need to research that Blue Flame upgrade. So it's much easier to mix a few into a composition because you don't have to invest. It's similar to Siege Tank. It's much easier to integrate mech units into a bioplay now because you no longer have to pay for those expensive upgrades to really get use out of them.
All right, Dragon posturing himself across the field here. Applying a little bit of pressure, but not going to be willing to engage just yet. Wants to wait for those medevacs. And again, remember, medevacs have that ability. What did they call it? Infernal Ignite Afterburners.
Exactly.
Right, I gotta remember
that. You know what's interesting also with the new Hellbat change? I wonder if they're going to be more effective at dropping worker lines. Because now all it will take is 2 Hellbats with 1 shot at probe. I mean, the splash isn't quite as big, but the way workers spread out when they're mining, it still might actually be pretty decent to just run around using that Ignite Afterburners, drop some Hellbats around in their worker lines. The one big thing that hasn't been used with that medevac upgrade yet is the fact that you can use that upgrade and all of a sudden you can outrun workers. So normally if you drop units and the workers run away from you, if the units you dropped are slower than the workers, you're out of luck, they're gone.
Yeah, you can't follow them.
But now you could pick units in the medevac, hit on the afterburners, catch up to the workers, and drop it again.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty cool move that I'm really, really interested in seeing if people utilize that with these new Hellbats.
All right, we'll have to see if Dragon decides to do something like that, and I think he has... No, it's an SCV. I thought it was a medevac heading to the south side of the map, but for now, keeping his entire army at this watchtower, TT1 trying to figure out what's going on, placing a pylon just outside of this watchtower location, immediately canceling it and retreating that probe. So TT1 knows what's going on, got a good glimpse of his opponent's unit composition. We see TT1 with a lot of Colossi here, so not going for ridiculously fast Storm, just getting a few Colossi on the field, mixing in some Stalkers to deal with any potential Vikings, and also continuing into 3-3. So I don't necessarily expect him to try to engage here, because I feel like the best timing for him would be to wait for that 3-3 upgrade, considering Dragon just now finished 2-2, and Dragon has a nice little concave set up in the middle of the map here, so TT1, I don't think it would be the best idea to try to engage that location.
He might be looking for a 3-3 timing, perhaps with Archons added in. I don't think he'll quite have time to get Storm Research when 3-3 finishes.
Sure.
This is something we used to see like Genius and Squirtle loved. I mean, Squirtle won a tournament off the back of this build, or build similar, not quite. I guess this is more like a Genius build than a Squirtle build. But just cranking out this massive amounts of Protoss base core units. No fancy Templar, but just getting the head and upgrades and then trying to create a timing out of exploiting that upgrade advantage. If TT1 can hit something, perhaps waiting for charge, or I don't even think he needs to wait for charge. He doesn't have that many cells in his composition.
Oh wow, yeah, charge is pretty late. I'm pretty surprised by that.
It was really, I mean, his composition. I think he's banking off using the Colossi to do most of the killing with these great upgrades, and so he prioritized Blink so we could make sure to deal with the Vikings very, very efficiently.
And potential medevac drops. You don't want to be caught by those Ignite Afterburners without Blink Stalkers. It's going to be a very difficult process. Because they're so much faster, and again, just now getting High Templars, so he could potentially leave 1 or 2 in his main and natural expansion just for those feedbacks. But yeah, as you said, not researching Storm just yet. So I have to see if he makes an Archon. Yep, there's an Archon in production. And Dragon coming towards this base at the middle right-hand location, the 4th base of TT1. And this is not a terrible spot to engage here. He can set himself up with a nice concave, but we'll see. Have to see if TT1 decides to try to do something about this. Blinking to the right with the Stalkers trying to target fire down the Vikings. The Colossi trying to do splash damage. And there goes the Time Warp from the Mothership Port, immediately getting sniped away. But keep in mind, these Zealots do not have charge, so slowly crawling their way towards these Marines and Marauders, which means I think Dragon might have enough. It's actually a really close battle, but it looks like the reinforcements from TT1 should be enough to fend off this aggression.
I think he should take it. I mean, Dragon had a great position there and a decent competition, but unfortunately he hit right before his 3-3 finished, fighting a pretty severe upgrade battle uphill-wise.
Yeah.
And I would say TT1 probably got the better end of that engagement.
We also have a War Prism trying to make his way into the main base of Dragon. We're going to be tracked down by
no
a
afterburners
Viking.
for that one.
Nope. And keep in mind, TT1 already has High Templar tech, but he hasn't researched Storm yet, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Doesn't have... Oh, it looks like he might just try to go for a complete counter timing. Warping in nothing but gateway units, not really researching anything else. Is researching shields, though, but gonna try to exploit a timing here, and Dragon looks a little bit vulnerable.
Dragon is definitely a little bit short on a unit count, but he does have this nice wall, and finally he's hit that upgraded quality that he's looking for to really get a great engagement. Hold position micro and SCVs, what a great move to keep those Zealots from getting through that working line.
That was perfect. Zealots didn't do much whatsoever. Meanwhile, we do have a drop heading to the 4th base of TT1. Remember, this is the medevac that got out of the battle from before, so the Nexus actually getting pretty low on health. The Marauders are going to try to target it down, but the Zealots charging and trying to take down these Marauders, but no, I think the Nexus...
Oh, they're not stimmed anymore! They're fine, and the second
go
stim goes. The Marauders take out the Nexus, and the medevacs are going to scoot out.
Yeah, great pick off there from Dragon, and TT1 finds himself in a situation where he has to do damage with this, but Dragon has great SimCity, forced to pull these SCVs though to deal with this. Not many Vikings, there are actually no Vikings at all to potentially deal with the Colossus, so the Colossus is having a field day, taking out the Marines and Marauders. 2 Archons here as well, not being EMP'd, going to be focused down by the Bio Army there from Dragon, but TT1 needs to be careful not to overextend. He just lost his 4th base, meanwhile, Dragon has a 4th base of his own, so if you overextend and your opponent is able to get a lot of reinforcements on the field, all of a sudden you're facing a wall of Marine Marauder that you really don't have a response to. So I think, in my opinion, I think TT1 should play a little bit cautiously. Maybe send 4 Zealots at the check on this 3rd base. It's not a planetary, but engaging into SCVs and wall-offs and buildings that your Colossi will prioritize can be very dangerous.
The single Colossus having to deal with 4 Vikings. Ghosts are cloaked and there's no observer. The Archon gets EMP'd, he's almost dead. There's still other Archon at the back though, but man, these Ghosts are just shredding the army and they can't be touched.
No observer here from TT1, no Oracle for Envision, no detection whatsoever, and I think he's just now realizing that the Cloak Ghosts were there, going to back away, wondering why his units were melting away so quickly, why his Zealots were yelling at him that bumblebees were, invisible bees were attacking him. No, it was the Ghosts that were cloaked, firing their shots up onto that Protoss army. But TT1 still has that supply advantage, and I'm trying to think about what really explains that, considering I feel like Dragon hasn't been doing a terrible job in these engagements.
Yeah, Dragon lost a lot of SCVs in that one engagement, so he's definitely fallen behind in the worker count. So while the supplies are pretty even, or in fact T21 has an edge, I mean, we have to think Dragon's got 3 bio units now, and once Terran hits the upgraded quality with a decent ghost count, TT1's feeling the pressure to end the game now before Dragon's army gets any bigger. He's trying to find a game in an engagement, but he just can't get it. I mean, Dragon knows time's on his side. He's just going to stay defensive and force TT1 to come to him.
He's okay losing a few SCVs as long as he can trade his army efficiently here. Throwing down the EMPs onto the Archons. TT1 trying to make this run. Again, I don't see any Vikings here from Dragon. I'm wondering where they are because you need those against those Colossi. But Dragon continuing to microwave and TT1 not feeling confident, perhaps trying to bait Dragon forward and then going to turn around. But no, he's gonna retreat back to these reinforcements.
Regenerate some shields, man.
And there we see 4 Vikings that just popped out. So a Dragon making 4 Vikings at a time at this point in time.
Yeah, if I was Dragon, I would definitely rather use the Vikings counter the Colossus. His technique there of putting the Ghosts in the front without Cloak didn't work out so well. And it's given TT1 a significant army advantage. A nice little try to stab by Dragon, try to take out a few units, but he's getting punished for it with these Blink Stalkers.
Got to lift off and hit that Ignite Afterburner's button. Uh-oh, one medevac getting taken out. But this means Dragon is going to be very vulnerable. Most of his army, believe it or not, is these medevacs and the units inside. So back home, he's not going to have a lot to defend. I don't know about this decision from Dragon. He's completely forfeiting his third, essentially. His natural expansion even. He's just going to back up into his main base. Might try like start bunkering up perhaps and walling off because, again, most of his army is heading towards TT1's third that was just canceled for support.
Yeah, you know, I don't actually mind this too much because I'm not sure if he could have defended this attack in the first place. Sure. And the more time he buys, his rally is very strong. He doesn't actually need money right now. He has so many units queued up in his barracks from the money he's made earlier that if he has time to get these units out, he'll actually be totally fine. And so he knows he doesn't want to fight TT1, so why not launch this little counterattack?
All right, TT1 going to try to win the game right here, right now. EMP's blanketing the Protoss army, and TT1 saying maybe that was a bad idea, backing away. But nice blink on the Stalkers, targeting down the Vikings, which means the Colossus is going to have nothing to shoot at. But here comes the Marauders down the ramp, trying to deal with these Stalkers, and that should be enough here as the Ghosts cloak as well. So Dragon holding off this army, and he's actually going to bring his squadron home that he was using to harass his opponent. But meanwhile,
not
he's
much
lost,
of a squadron left though.
Yeah, he's lost pretty much every SCV in his fourth base. 2 Zealots are still alive, 13 kills and 13 kills for them both. So they're heroes, and Dragon even dropping some mules here that are going to get killed. 1 or 2 of them will, at least.
Yeah, Dragon unfortunately did lose all his SCVs there. Trying to, you know, handle all the fronts. Those SCVs were neglected a little bit. He's long distance mining from this base here. That's just about his only income. On the other hand, though, if we take a look at what TT1 has, his natural is pretty much mined out.
Yeah, but
so he's got a third base. He's got plenty of probes. He just needs to build more nexuses so he can utilize them.
And it's such a tricky decision to make at this point in the game. All right, do I want another Nexus? Because that could be 4 Zealots, which could really swing the army battle in my favor. Dragon might be overextending a little bit here. Vikings might get caught off by Stalkers, but gonna back away before TT1 decides to blink forward, throwing down a scan to get an idea of his opponent's unit composition. Meanwhile, adding on 4 more Vikings at a time, so still able to get his economy up and running with these mules at this third base at the top. So his army isn't going to be as bad as it probably should be. But it's all going to come down to the engagement. TT1 is up 168 to 118 in that supply count. So
of course, that is mostly workers. And like you mentioned, with all the mules that that Dragon has, wow, look at that, 72 workers killed by TT1 here. Dragon's got to delay the engagement until his ghosts get a little bit more energy. He's got like 7 or 8 ghosts, but they all are so broke on energy. Without EMPs, that army is going to be almost impossible to beat.
All right, Dragon going to try to position his Vikings on this high ground here, trying to get some shots off on the bus. The Stalker's going to blink forward, but the Marauders are there. Dragon actually going to stem forward, but look at this. TT1 able to snipe down every single Viking except a couple, and TT1 going to try to engage here. EMP's going down here from it. Dragon with the Colossi are very much still alive against a mostly bio army, which means that Dragon is going to be ripped to shreds by TT1 at this point in time, down to 35 supply. What a brilliant engagement there from TT1, and he's going to take victory for the Protoss race, and his win streak is extended to 6. Who's going to beat TT1? I don't know, man. I don't know if it's possible.
He's just looking so strong here. I mean, Dragon had a lot of advantages in that game, but when it came down to it, I mean, TT1 just took all the battles he needed to. There was a couple bad engagements he had, but then the moment that Dragon said, here's my ghost in front of my army, TT1 jumped on it. And when Dragon gave up those, it was 8 or 10 ghosts for basically nothing there. The game went downhill from that point on. TT1 knew how to like use that advantage and leverage it into forcing Dragon to give up his natural, harassing the 4th, you know, just too much damage.
Yeah, and I love the micro throughout that game from TT1. I mean, time and time again, he kept blinking his Stalkers this way, blinking his Stalkers that way, taking down Vikings here and there, and that's actually a really huge deal because if you can take out the Vikings, what's actually going to do damage to your Colossi? Sure, one might say Marauders, but they have to get close enough to do that. And with so many charge lots that TT1 had, the Marauders aren't going to be able to do that. So you kind of need the Vikings in the air, position them on high ground, position them away from the Stalkers, try to snipe down those Colossi so you can remove them from the army so that you can have an advantage. But TT1 was able to get the better end of those micro situations as far as Stalkers versus Vikings, and he's able to extend his win streak to 6. So we need someone to beat him. I'm going to go to channel MLG and see who I can find. So if you are a high Grandmaster or pro player and you want your shot at TT1, he's currently on a 6-game winning streak, killing everyone in Heart of the Swarm. Will his streak end in the next game? That's going to be coming up after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.